What's going on, everybody? We're getting a nice day from the Bitcoin miners. Bitcoin is holding up at 67,000 for now. And in this video, I'm going to go over a couple of charts. We're also going to talk about the power law. This is the first time I think I've heard of this. And so far, it seems like an accurate indicator of where Bitcoin is going. But let's kick this video right off. If you guys get something useful out of this, make sure you like, subscribe, ring the notification bell. Sorry if my voice is a little off, if my eyes are super watery. Allergies are getting me today, but let's get this done. And first off, let's look over what this power law is. And I found this as a pretty interesting article, and I'll leave it down below for you guys. But basically, this article is going over using power laws to predict when the Bitcoin price will hit $1 million. Now I'll spoil it right here and say it's expected to be 1 million by 2033. And honestly, to me, that makes a bit of sense. I do think we're not going to see a million this cycle, obviously. I do think we're not going to see a million in the next cycle. Maybe it's a possibility, but I just doubt it. But the following cycle, the 2032 halving cycle, to me it does reason that 2033 we could see $1 million Bitcoin. It is the peak year of that cycle. And you know, these analysts saying it's going to be a million by 2030. Like I said in a previous video, if we're not going to see $1 million by 2029, we're very unlikely to see $1 million by 2030, just following Bitcoin's 4-year cycle, which I think Bitcoin generally will follow. The market will react on the halving. There will be an anticipatory run leading up to the halving like there always is, and there will be a run after the halving like there always is. And then we will see a crypto winter. We will see a correction, pullback. But basically these power laws, they're scientific laws. You can use these power laws for metabolic rates. You can use power laws for the size limits of animals. But power laws extend into human activities like economics, finance, and technology. And check this out. This astrophysicist, Giovanni Santazzi, discovered this connection. He says that 15 years of data show that Bitcoin also follows a power law principle. And this power law model was first shown in a Bitcoin subreddit back in 2018. And basically this theory from Giovanni says that Bitcoin's price is not as random as it seems. There is randomness to it, yes, but over the long term, Bitcoin follows a specific mathematical model. It's not just a mathematical formula that some guy drew a line through. Instead, it follows a power law like the ones observed throughout the universe. And I'll zoom this in for you guys, but basically the red line is the long-term support line. The green line is basically its mean or its average, basically a price that it always goes back to. And then this purple line is where Bitcoin typically tops out. And you can see that, funny enough, Bitcoin didn't top out in the previous cycle. I do think this has something to do with FTX. It was right after this point that we heard about the bankruptcy, all this weird stuff going on with Sam Bankman-Fried. I do think there's a lot of fraud going on there. And we saw this weird cycle, you know, we saw kind of a double top type of a cycle, which we really haven't seen before. So, you know, if it wasn't for that, Bitcoin might have reached a much higher level. It might have reached 80, 90,000, maybe 100,000. This, you know, power law model would have supported $100,000 Bitcoin back in that cycle. We did not top out. We did not hit our purple line in that cycle. Kind of interesting. It's suggested that Bitcoin could peak at 210,000 in January 2026. I would think it would be 2025. That should be the peak year, but that's kind of interesting. Followed by a subsequent decline to around 60,000. He goes on to predict that Bitcoin will be worth 1 million by July of 2023. I personally do think $1 million Bitcoin in the next peak of the next cycle is unlikely, but in this cycle peak, I think there's a possibility there. Bitcoin is going to need to have a meteoric rise if that's going to happen. I'm not saying it's impossible, I'm just saying that the larger the market cap gets, the more we're going to need substantial amounts of money to move that price much higher. You know, one thing to think about, maybe the catalyst that brings Bitcoin to $1 million is what we've been seeing recently, this institutional adoption. These banks adding Bitcoin to their balance sheet. These pension funds buying Bitcoin. And while I do think $1 million Bitcoin is very unlikely this cycle, probably even next cycle, I do think there's a possibility in the 2032 halving cycle. We should theoretically top out at 2033. That would be a peak year. If we follow the 4-year cycle, Bitcoin may diverge from that. You never know. But that's where my thoughts are. I do think $1 million Bitcoin is possible by 2033. But for that to happen, we do need to see, in my opinion, more institutional adoption. We need to see a lot of companies on board actually adding, you know, little percentages of Bitcoin to their overall portfolio, and seeing Bitcoin being utilized as a hedge against inflation, seeing Bitcoin being utilized as digital gold. Now, I did want to show you guys Bitcoin. Bitcoin is looking good. Over the weekend, it saw a little bit of recovery. We broke 67,000, pulled back a little bit. Now we're back over 67,000. We are over the 50 MA. And it seems like Bitcoin is still following this general uptrend, this kind of ascending channel. I would like to see Bitcoin try to push up and find this as resistance rather than kind of creating a wedge, you know? Hopefully we continue up a little farther, maybe find resistance at 68.5, 68.6 or something. Kind of give us a nice ascending channel rather than an ascending wedge. That's what I would prefer. And, you know, possibly find resistance right around this 70,000 before, you know, coming back, retesting moving averages, and finally breaking that 70,000 and getting to those all-time highs again. I think we're not far from it. And Bitcoin has been taking out its previous highs. Our next high to take out is this, you know, right around $72,000 area. We have taken out this high, this lower high here. I do think our next test is getting to the 72,000 area, and then a potential break of 74,000. Now I want to give you a couple quick updates on the Bitcoin miners. For now, it looks like Sphere 3D is breaking out of its descending resistance. You know, we're probably going to find resistance on our 50 MA. Watch how we do right around this 120 area. But this is nice, you know, we broke our lower high. Seems like we're finally breaking this structure. This stock has shown a lot of weakness with the halving cutting rewards. This one has absolutely tanked. It is probably the highest risk miner out there. It is an extremely small market cap. We're talking $25–30 million market cap. And honestly, from a market cap to hash rate, you can't find a better stock. However, it's extremely high risk. They're not profitable. Other miners have been posting profitability. You know, all I'm saying is do not bet the farm. This is a very small percentage of my portfolio. It's very high risk, you know, it might not work out. But right now, Sphere 3D is showing some promise. We are breaking our descending resistance, but we are still facing a 200 and a 50 MA that is declining. I also want to talk about Sparky. Cleanspark is finding resistance on the 50 MA still. I mean, just look at this. It has continued to find resistance on this. The positive is it does look like we're breaking our descending resistance here. Perhaps we break this 50 MA here. Perhaps it's today. Also, looking at the RSI, we are now above 50 again. Last time we barely went above 50. We just fell back down, bounced off the trend line. Perhaps this is our time we can actually get out of this 50 area and head towards the higher level, the overbought level on this RSI. Go on a nice run here. We definitely have room to run. My bad, guys, but I wanted to really quickly go back to Bitcoin and show you guys that on the Heikenashis, on the daily, we are in a nice green uptrend. These Heikenashis are very useful because it kind of smooths out the trend. It gives a little less volatility. It lets you kind of get a clearer idea of the trend we're going in, at least currently. And yeah, on the daily we are in an uptrend, green. You want to see those green candles. And on the weekly we have started our uptrend again. That's a great sign. But yeah, things are looking pretty good for Bitcoin. I do think this uptrend is going to continue. I do think we're soon going to test our all-time highs. To me, it's just something about how these charts are setting up. We finally broke our downtrends. Recently we've been seeing inflows from the spot Bitcoin ETFs. Bitcoin now seems to be in an uptrend. I do think we are going to test those all-time highs. I could be wrong, I've been wrong before, but that's just my gut feeling, that's just reading the room. To me, Bitcoin's either going to be testing 70,000 by the end of this month or 65,000, and soon after that we are going to test all-time highs, in my opinion, probably sometime in June. But yeah, Cleanspark, you know what I'm watching, like I said, a break of the 50 MA. We are breaking this descending resistance, but so far we're not getting much of a reaction to it. A break of the 50 MA, in my opinion, is going to bring a good reaction, but just be careful, we have had false breakouts before. Now I did want to pull up BTBT. This is one of the best performing miners today. It is finally ripping. It was so overdue for a nice run. Getting a nice 16% day. Finally broke over that 50 MA and holding. Last time it broke over the 50 MA and it broke out of this descending resistance, we saw a false breakout. We headed back down, bounced off this trend line. Now what I'm watching for is this ascending channel for BTBT. This is what I'm seeing right now. It does look like we broke our downtrend. So I'm following this ascending channel. I think we are going to somewhat play it out. But we are for now finding resistance on the 200 MA. We broke out of the 50 MA. It honestly looks like it's starting to kind of want to curl up here. If we can get a little more upward momentum, keep this 50 MA pointing up, break over that 200, get the 50 to break over the 200, get our golden cross again, BTBT will be looking good. But it's a matter of getting over the next couple weeks, getting that bullish direction, getting that chart to look a little more bullish, because currently we're under 200 MA. Currently the 50 is under the 200 MA. We did see our death cross a couple months ago. But I do think it's a matter of time until BTBT breaks this downtrend it's been in, until we get our golden cross, and until we get back over those moving averages. It's a matter of time. Digital as a company, in my opinion, couldn't be any better. Their AI is ramping up quickly. Their AI is quickly becoming a larger portion of their business than Bitcoin, which to me is great timing. In my opinion, we've got right around another year of this run. After that, we're going to start seeing crypto winter. The miners that have diversified revenue streams, in my opinion, will do the best, or the least bad, I should say. But to me, Digital is an interesting one. You know, they're making a lot of revenue from AI. They are not just solely a Bitcoin miner, and I like that about them. But we are getting a very nice day from Digital. What I really want to see is a break over this 200 MA. We're probably going to find resistance here, though. Pull back, bounce on this ascending support line. perhaps test the 50 MA. But you know, we're right around the corner from the chart looking much better. It's not perfect yet, but it is showing promise. We are kind of in a recovery mode now. It's a matter of breaking back over those moving averages and getting them in the right order. But I love seeing recovery days like this. We were definitely overdue. I do think Bitcoin will be knocking on all-time highs very soon. And I do think these Bitcoin miners are setting up to outperform Bitcoin. They have absolutely tanked from the Bitcoin halving. The market priced in the halving rewards being cut. And now I do believe some of these miners are going to continue to outperform Bitcoin now that we've got through the halving, now that we have got through the first earnings. Most of these miners have posted profitable quarters. Some of these miners expect upcoming profitability. Some of these miners expect small growth in revenue, which honestly is quite impressive considering we just got through the halving. So fundamentally, you know, these companies are doing quite great, considering that rewards are even getting cut in half. Many of these companies have little to no debt. Many of these companies have decent cash piles, decent Bitcoin piles, and I do think they are set up for any potential unprofitability until Bitcoin appreciates in value and more than makes up for the halving rewards being cut. But what say you? What Bitcoin miners are you guys watching? How are you feeling about Bitcoin? Do you think we're on our way to create new all-time highs, or are you a bit hesitant in saying that? I do personally think we are setting up to go on a next run. I do think we just broke our downtrend and we should be continuing this little uptrend at least a little bit longer. But so far so good. You know, these Bitcoin miners are starting uptrends. Bitcoin is starting its uptrend, and I do think the rest of this month should be pretty fun. Thanks as always for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.